So the year is 2008, and I have just landed my first Broadway audition. So my hair is perfectly straightened, and my wrap dress is like perfectly wrapped. And I can hear my heels click underneath me as I enter into the sunlit studio of a prominent Broadway casting director. And I want this gig. I want this part. And I lock eyes with the reader, and I begin, and I am like losing myself in the work. I am feeling free, I am feeling expansive, I am feeling all the feels, and then I make the mistake of looking over at the casting director, who is not looking up. Now they are looking mildly perturbed. Now they are looking frustrated. Now they are flipping my headshot and resume over. Now their head is in their hands. Oh my God. My heart drops into my butt, panic rips through my chest, and I do the worst possible thing an actor can do. I start trying to impress them. So my accent becomes more ridiculous, and my arms just start like gesticulating wildly, and I look over at the reader, whose eyes are now growing wide in mild shock. Oh my God, and the casting director is still not looking up. The casting director never looked up. And when I am excused, I can hear my heels click underneath me as I run to the closest ice cream truck that I can find. And a couple days later, I get a call for my representation. I didn't get the job, if that's what you're wondering. No, actually, they're calling to give me some feedback from the casting director, and it's not good. They say I had no idea what I was doing, I totally missed the mark, and I am very, very green, which means bad. And a couple months after that, I get another call for an audition, this time with the same casting director, for the same part. The replacement. They want to see me again. Well, and logically, I mean, I understand this is an opportunity, right, to get back in there, to show them what I'm made of, but something comes over me and I turn the audition down. Yeah. I tell my representation that I refuse to go back into a room of a casting director that would say the things about me that that casting director did, and I tell myself that this is empowering. And of course, I mean, they try to convince me to go back in. I mean, this is Broadway after all. I mean, this is a part that I wanted, but it was no use. And I got what I wanted, or so I thought. Never went in for that casting director again. Hello again. My name is Beth Clayton. I am a health and life coach, and I am here today to talk to you about the very sexy, the very fun, the very glitzy topic of self-sabotage. And how do I know so much about it? Well, clearly I was making a lot of my life choices out of sabotage until I learned the secret to overcoming it. And now I help others do the same so that they can accelerate momentum and fulfill the highest visions that they have for themselves. So how would I define self-sabotage? You recognize you have a deep desire for something. Like, I wanted that Broadway part, and yet you are finding ways to crash the plane right as it's taking off, or sometimes before it even gets to the runway. And my sabotage, or my saboteur as I'm going to call her, was crazy strong. And whenever she was around, I felt totally and completely helpless in her presence. You know what, I'm just gonna introduce you to her. So here she is. Well, this is me around the time my saboteur was born. She's 9, and she loves to dance in her basement to the soundtrack of Cats. Usually wearing dance costumes from years previously, because it's been a while since she's been in a formal dance class, since she was around 5. And she begs her mom to go to the premier dance studio in town because they have a competition league, guys. So think like dance moms. And she gets there, and when she starts taking lessons, she can tell she looks a little different than the other girls. I mean, she's definitely taller, she's definitely heavier, she's already starting to develop, and she's sprouting these little breast mounds while all the other girls are tiny and flat-chested, and they have these buns and lip gloss and like the black dance skin leotards, and she's wearing this outfit that she thought was pretty cool, but she's seriously starting to second-guess that assumption. It is a pink cloth bathing suit that is losing its elasticity. And it's placed over a pair of blue plaid stretch pants with black jazz shoes. And one day, while stretching behind the other girls, a group of them. One of them turns around, looks her straight in the face, and says in a voice as if over a megaphone, "You seriously smell like a sewer." And her ears start buzzing, and her heart drops into her butt. Did anybody else hear that? Well, clearly not the teacher, because she was like, "Pot of berets across the floor!" And suddenly it's her turn, and she's so confused and flummoxed, she just starts tripping all over herself. And then the teacher gets annoyed, and she's like, "Don't you know your right from your left?" And the truth was that she didn't. Okay, she didn't know her right from her left. So she held up her hands to try to remember, but she couldn't remember which way the L was supposed to face. And then laughter just swelled all around her, and she ran out of that dance studio. And in that moment, I decided 3 things. I should never let anybody see my weaknesses. I'm stupid, and I'm an imposter. And my acting teacher in graduate school used to call these moments tiny deaths, where we have this loss of innocence, and we make these snap decisions about ourselves that are rooted in pain and shame, and very few of us get out of these moments. You know which one I'm talking about. And in that moment, our purest self that's following their bliss is traded in for a protected one. That day, my saboteur was born. And she popped up after that Broadway audition, refusing to go back in, transporting me back to that dance studio, reminding me what happens when I dare to fly too high. And she kept popping up. Years later, a new dream was born, and I found myself on the path of a health coach. And I was like loving it. And I was feeling empowered, and my business was booming, and new opportunities were opening up for me, and I started engaging in the oddest behavior. I started smoking again, which I hadn't done in years. And I mean, this might seem like a small thing, but because I was a health coach, this just played into my saboteur's hands beautifully as she reminded me who I really was and what would happen if people saw that. And luckily, I recognized this was happening, and I ran to my mentor to try to figure out how to stop it. And I said, "Listen, there is this part of myself, and I can't stand her. She tries to destroy everything. How do I kill her?" And she looked at me, and she just started laughing. And she was like, "Yeah, she's not going anywhere. She is here for good. That," she said, "is the part of you that needs your love and acceptance the most. And she is not shutting up until she gets it." What? But I started to see it. I did. I started to see that my saboteur and my 9-year-old were actually the same. That my saboteur was just the armored second skin of my most exposed, most freaked out little kid. And her job was a noble one. I mean, it was to do or say anything that was going to keep that 9-year-old out of the proverbial dance studio. And I had been trying to overcome her and wrestle her. All she was trying to do was just keep me from feeling like the smelly kid who was wearing the wrong clothes, who didn't know her right from her left. And I realized it wasn't my job to overcome her. It was my responsibility to understand her. That if I really wanted to get the plane off the ground, that I needed to invite her into the conversation about how to do so. Because anytime that I really want something, she's going to be right there. Hell, I mean, she popped up when the opportunity of this TEDx came up, and she's been there through the entire preparation process, and she is on the stage with us right now. But now, when I am hijacked by her past pain, when I want to crash the plane, I have new tools. I try to visualize her. And when I do, I mean, she's pissed off, she's angry, she's intimidating, but when I really see her, and when I breathe her in, she starts to transform and crumble into that little 9-year-old heap outside of that dance studio. And I can see her pink bathing suit. I can see her plaid stretch pants. And as the adult in the situation, it is my job to go and sit with her and put my arm around her. And I ask her a question. Short of crashing the plane, because we're not going to do that. What do you need from me? And when I ask her that question, she tells me pure and simple. She says, lady, if I'm going to go back in to that dance studio, I need to know there is nothing wrong with me. And I need to believe it. And if I'm going to go back in, I need you to hold my hand. And if I'm going to go back in, I need you to have my back if I get hurt like that again. And I agree. And when I give that to her, she hands me my power back. Overcoming your sabotage is about understanding why it popped up in the first place. And usually it's just you. At the moment of a tiny death, when you're a kid, you just got the crap beat out of your heart. And that kid is trying to protect you from feeling the thing that it just felt. It's your job to befriend that kid, to mentor them. Seek not to destroy your saboteur, because you can't do that, but rather to befriend them. Because when you join forces, they are going to be the one to get you off the ground and keep you in flight. Speaking of which, it may just be time for she and I to get back in that dance studio. Thank you so much.